Yeah, I think this is one of the most beautiful front ends ever made by BMW. Freaking gorgeous. Right. Today we're recording 2007 BMW 328i. It's my sister's car, so she said to be careful with it, which we probably won't. We're gonna take a look at this thing. I personally love it. Really simple car, naturally aspirated inline 6, 3 liter, making 230 horsepower, rear wheel drive, so should be some fun. All right.
Real vents?
Real vents. Are you recording? Right. So we do have real vents, which if you watch my last video on the Volkswagen, it had fake vents. This is an 07, it's got real vents. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see them, but they go right to the brakes. Just a freaking it's like splitting the Red Sea in there. Boom, right to the brakes. And obviously this is real and stuff like that. But the reason I wanted to bring you to the front end was the headlight specifically. So when you're driving this and you take a right or a left, you know, put your blinker on, take a left or right. This side bulb right here illuminates so you can see what's to the right of you as you're turning, which is a cool thing. And the headlights in here actually move while you're turning with the road to help, you know, point in the direction of what you're actually driving. My light's still on? It is. But yeah, cool headlights for an 07. The rear end's super good looking. I think it matches the front really well. The taillights and everything look extremely good. I don't know, since this is a convertible, I'm gonna assume instead of putting the antenna on the top, they put it on the trunk because it folds into itself. Which this is a hardtop convertible, and I guess we can do a display here in a few minutes of how that actually works. It's a pretty simple, but it's a cool process. Or do I look like a Ken doll Barbie?
Like
James Ford. Do I look like Ronnie Pickery? Yeah, this is the convertible. If you're into convertibles, I'm sure you'd like it. But it's nothing crazy. But it is kind of cool. I like the hardtop. I definitely am somebody who doesn't like soft tops. The only soft top I really like on a car is the Honda S2000. I talk about that car too much. But this thing is actually nice with the hardtop and everything, but I would still prefer like an actual non-convertible hardtop. My sister wants to look like a Barbie while she's driving it, I guess. You still recording? It's got dual exhaust tips. I was checking to see if it was an actual dual exhaust, and it's not. My BMW had dual exhaust tips, and it was an actual like true dual exhaust all the way up to, you know, the headers and whatnot, but this has got like a single 3-inch under there, I think. But it sounds good. It's quiet because it's not mine, otherwise it'd be loud. But you get a lot of engine noise, but the engine noise actually sounds pretty freaking good. So, exhaust note. Too quiet. It's got big brakes. I wanted to look at the wheels because they're actually stock wheels and they actually look really good. It's a staggered setup, so you got 255s in the rear and 225s at the front. But as you can see on these wheels, they are absolutely curved as shit. My sister probably did that in the Taco Bell drive-thru about 43 times. Just typical teenage girl shit. Now that we've showed you the outside, let's drive it. Alright, before we drive it, we're going to take a quick peek at the interior. I'm not going to go into too much depth because it's a 2007 BMW. I'm sure a majority of you have seen what an interior looks like in this car. But I will point out, it is a nice place to be. You got wood trim everywhere, which is very, very popular back then. And it's real wood, I would assume. My BMW, which is a 2004, had a real wood in it, so if that had real wood, I'm gonna assume that this is real wood as well. But like up here on the dash, like you got this really cool edge that comes around, and then you have the BMW iDrive system integrated into here, and you control that system using this little knob. And so this was one of the first like early iDrive systems where everything was integrated in there, and you can change the climate, you can change the air vents using the iDrive system, but you also have this here as well. For a 2007, it's not a bad place to be. It still feels like you're in a modern car, and the sound system in here, phenomenal as well. The interior, it's a great place to be. It's something that you can daily drive, and even as a sports car. Is he right behind me? He's right behind me. 1 second, sir. But even as a sports car, like, it's a good place to be. My sister obviously doesn't drive it like I would. Obviously I'd take it down back roads and whatnot, but she just daily drives it to work and around town and everything in between. She absolutely loves this thing. It doesn't have a lot of storage, I will say. And you have weird cup holders if you want to. And that's your driver cup holder, which honestly, like, think about it. It's a perfect arm's length away for me, at least. And I'm 6 feet tall. So you can't drive this car unless you're 6 foot. Sorry. Well, now we're in the 2007 BMW 320i, and as it is a BMW, you can hear how peaceful and quiet in here it is. It actually is comfortable, and this car is actually pretty low to the ground. It's definitely a lot lower than my car was per se. And this thing has thin tires, bigger wheels, so it should be less comfortable, which when you're actually going over like a lot of bumps and shit like that, there's a lot more noise in the cabin because of that. Oh, here's some good ones. Here's some more bumps. So like you can hear stuff going on, and it's gonna be more like than your typical car. But as for like comfortability and like the way, you know, it makes you feel like on your back when you're going over bumps, like it's a pretty smooth ride relatively to what the car is. When you put it in sport mode, since it's also a BMW, or sport mode, and you can even put it in manual mode. So now I can play through the gears. It's a 6-speed to be exact. But yeah, you put it in sport mode and then you can actually have some fun in it, like a BMW is supposed to be. You come into a corner and hit a downshift, and it's very, very flat. Like very flat. There's not a lot of body roll in this thing, which I was honestly genuinely surprised. I mean, this was just literally a normal 3 Series BMW, and it wasn't even the highest edition at the time. Like, this is just literally just a normal 328, and when I got into it, I wasn't expecting much because of that reason, but I must have forgot it was a BMW because it just handles so well, and it's so much fun to have. And it only has 228 horsepower, but with this thing only weighing around 3,400 pounds, it's not bad at all. Did I say 228 horsepower? Yeah. Oh, it's got 230 horsepower. I'm not going to cut it out of that too. Front end grips, and if you really wanted to, you could kick out the rear end. I mean, it's got enough horsepower and to do a burnout, just a standing regular burnout. So it's plenty enough to have fun. And I've said that before, but it's 100% true. You don't need much horsepower to have fun. And this is one of those cars where it's a prime example. And the steering, unlike well, I guess the E46, the generation prior to this one, also had heavy steering, but this is even heavier, which is kind of nice, because when you're trying to make all those small little movements, it doesn't move the car a shit ton, but it still feels like you're getting constant feedback because of the weight of the steering. It's not super light like it is nowadays, but it's still super smooth, and that's one thing. It was definitely easier than the E46 edition, the prior generation. Was the steering in that was very good, but as you were turning the wheel, the weight didn't feel the same all the way around, so it would feel kind of awkward once you get to a certain turning position. This is equally weighted the whole way around, and it makes it really nice to go through corners because it's not coming out of nowhere and scaring you because all of a sudden like it starts diving in a little bit quicker than it was before. But so it's really smooth to drive fast, which is nice, other than the noise. But listen. But the little bit that you do hear, that naturally aspirated inline-6 sounds great for what it is. Just a 3-liter inline-6, no turbos, no foul play, none of that extra bullshit. Just straight air and gas horsepower, baby. That's the best.
How about them Broncos?
What? Dude, oh shit. See, it's got some stiff suspension. If Avery did a middle seat review, which there is none, so he'd be sitting on plastic, he would have an overly bruised tailbone afterwards. Don't hit any potholes in this thing, because this thing has really thin tires. I should have looked at the sidewall tread to see how actually thin they are, but they're pretty thin. It's one of those tires where if you hit a pothole going too fast, you're just gonna pop the whole damn tire. I guess we can try out sport mode. I usually put it in manual mode, but they have a drive sport mode where you just slap it over to the left, and you could still choose your gears if you want, or you can just leave it there and it'll say DS up here on the front. And so if you didn't want to have to mess with any gears, then you could totally do that as well. And it still works well. It's a pretty simple setup. Instead of, for say, cruising in 5th, if you had it in sport mode, it'd be cruising in 4th, just so you have a little bit easier throttle response and it doesn't have to downshift so many times. Very nice. It's very flat and it's very easy to keep straight because of the heavy steering. All those little micro movements don't do a whole lot to the steering. You actually got to get it right about here is where it's numb, and then if you go into anything farther, that's where it actually starts to connect. So my consensus on the 2007 BMW 328i is it's wonderful for what it was built to do. You can drive it every day and you can take it on the back roads and have fun. It's still a BMW, it's comfortable, it's somewhat quiet. If you had better tires, it'd probably be quieter. But it's quiet, it's comfortable, daily drivable with the gearbox and everything. But if you want to go on a back road and put it in manual mode or dynamic sport mode, like, you could actually have some fun. So if you want to look like a Barbie, or if you're a male, if you want to look like a Ken doll Barbie, I would 100% recommend buying one of these.